if we could talk to the animals, you'd be standing out there in Parkville, chatting to a baboon or a raccoon, wouldn't you?
Yes, you would, or frolicking with a panda, perhaps.
Because the Melbourne Zoo is 150 years old this year, and a man who has been talking to those animals all those years is Kevin Tanner. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Bruce. Hello, Phil.
Yeah.
Lovely to talk with you.
You too. We love the zoo, Kevin.
Your association, Kevin, tell us how you became involved with the Melbourne Zoo.
Well, I became director. Well, actually, I started at the zoo in about 1982 as an education officer, a teacher at the zoo, but then left and went away and became an academic and moved into other animal industries. And then 3 years ago, got the call back and became director of Melbourne Zoo, which is an absolute privilege to have.
And what is that mantle? What does that entail?
That I oversee the running of the entire aspect of Melbourne Zoo. So that's the animals and the staff and our visitors, and look after all aspects of it.
And what would that total, the animals and staff, the heads?
Well, we have 2,500 animals made up of birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, fish, and staff, 250 to 320 staff in busy times.
Now, Kevin Tanner, take us back to those earlier, well, you can't take us back 150 years, but was it established in Parkville originally?
Bruce, what happened was in 1857 they established part of the zoo down at the Botanical Gardens, adjoining the Botanical Gardens, and they actually set it up as an acclimatisation society so that they could bring some wonderful species out from other countries to then acclimatise them to the Australian climate and release them out into the wild. So many of our exotic species that have habitated the Australian bush have commenced in the 1850s and 60s when we set them up here. Now, what happened was that we didn't stay at that Botanical Gardens down at the river because it was too wet. So in 1862 they brought them up to a paddock, 55 acres up in Royal Park, and thus began the story of Melbourne Zoo.
Isn't that marvellous? You know, the interest with animals has been on going for centuries, I suppose, but you travel to Europe, and some of the prerequisites in places like Barcelona would be to bring lyrebirds and all of these mammals and amazing animals from Africa into parts of Europe that would never have seen them.
And the same happened here, and we still do that today. You know, we work very closely with other zoos around the world. We have a strong association, and no longer do reputable or good zoos have to go out into the wild and collect animals. We have very strong breeding programs and surplus stock that we have here in Australia that might be kangaroos or sometimes koalas and many of our birds. If they're surplus and the government allows us to do it, we will transport them overseas and swap them with other animals in other big zoos around the world.
And of course animals come and go. When I was a child, you had polar bears at the Melbourne Zoo.
Yes.
Do you still have them?
No. Polar bears are left in the early 80s. We just don't have the facilities for polar bears.
Gee, I remember going on stinking hot days and you'd see these concrete canyons with just steel bars over them. It's come a long way from those days when I was a kid.
We've moved on enormously since then with those concrete bars and the concrete and bars. Now we build habitats now, and what we try and do at Melbourne Zoo is we build experiences which resemble the habitat of where the animal comes from, and the people get a closer understanding of the animals, and hopefully in the end when they have those connections with the animals, they'll want to go and protect them and actually look after the animals at a later stage.
Now I remember a wonderful identity out there for many years, Joyce Seacamp. Do you remember Joyce?
I know of Joyce, yes. We also have another wonderful person out there, Judith.
Henke.
Henke, yes. Everyone's aware of Judith, and Judith has been around the zoo industry for a long, long time.
Yes, we're very familiar with Judith and with Joyce in the past. We remember elephant rides in the 40s, on Queenie and Peggy.
Yes, look, I go and talk to groups out in the community, and invariably they'll come up with a story of, I used to ride on Queenie or ride on Peggy. So the elephant rides are fond memories for many people.
And a little miniature Spirit of Progress train, and also a most magnificent carousel at one time.
The carousel is still there. It's a heritage classified, and it still works. And on holidays and weekends, kids still enjoy the carousel as it goes around.
I think one of my favourite attractions would be the giraffes, but I'm sure the baby elephants have been popular, Kevin.
Oh, in the last few years, we've been very successful with our breeding program, and Marley, our little beautiful elephant calf, has been a real delight. And Ongard, the little boy who's come along, he's been fantastic, and we've continued that success, and we have another elephant calf due this December, and another one in another 12 months' time.
Zoos worldwide have always been a lot of interest, but the Dubbo Zoo has a great reputation. What is that? Why is that?
Dubbo's pretty good. I'd like to think that Werribee Open Range is good, if not a better reputation. I think they're different styles of zoos. They're more open range zoos. I know Werribee it links with open rangeness, where you hop on the bus and go around and see herds of animals and large groups of African species on display. Same with Healesville Sanctuary. Healesville Sanctuary has people have great memories of Healesville Sanctuary in the Australian collection out there too.
Yeah. So. Remember the Bacchus Marsh Lion Park?
I think that was in the 60s and 70s, I'm pretty sure. It hasn't been around for a long time.
It has not, but we took the car out there when my children were very young. It would have been the early 70s, and you'd drive the car out and among the lions.
Yes. And you'd go through and they'd come and sit on the bonnet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we don't do that one anymore.
No, no.
You've got a very good chimpanzee enclosure there, and a very good accommodation for your lions and tigers too.
Yes, look, they're fantastic, and that's what we're hoping that with our new exhibit for the 150th, because we're celebrating 150 years this year, and our birthday is actually the 6th of October. What we would like the community to do is we want them to become involved in the celebration for the 150th. So we're asking people who are listening this evening if they have any old photos or stories of their experiences at the zoo to send them along to us, either electronically or in paper form, and we want to set up a display down our main drive, because our main drive's heritage listed, so we'd like to have thousands of magnificent photos that tell the memories that people had when they came to the zoo.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
How do we forward them to you, Kevin?
Either we could, if people can do it electronically, they can go to our website, www.zoo.org.au, and then memory lane, or if they want to pop them in an envelope, send them to Melbourne Zoo, P.O. Box 74, it'll get to us.
They could be guaranteed they'd be looked after, and
yes, and we'll take care of them. We will scan them in and put them on display. And if they have a story to go with it, we'd appreciate that even more. Yeah. I think that's part of the connection.
Yeah, and you know, 120 years ago, there used to be a horse-drawn tram to the zoo up through Parkville.
Yes, they did too. And we actually, in 1880s, we had our first elephant arrive in Australia to come to Melbourne Zoo, and she was dropped off at Port Melbourne, and there was no way of getting her up to the zoo. So we found out, we did some research, we found out she had to walk overnight to get to the zoo.
From where?
From down at Port Melbourne.
Oh, dear me.
She came on ship and then had to walk overnight, and that was Rani, the first elephant we had at Melbourne Zoo.
Isn't that wonderful? You can imagine a fellow who had been having a few spots at Young and Jackson's on the way home that up after 11. Hey, do you know what I saw coming up Spencer Street?
Absolutely.
Great talking to you, Kevin, and we wish you well in your search for memorabilia from the past.
Look, thank you, Phil. Thanks to Bruce for talking
Good
to me.
Man. Thanks so much, Kevin.
All right, bye.
There we are. It's a delightful man, Director Kevin Tanner. A long association with the zoo, now a director with the Melbourne Zoo, 150 years old this year.
We're lucky to have him. He sounds very compassionate.
Very nice, lovely man, and anxious to get any photos, memorabilia, stories for their big avenue of honour, which will be built this year.
Well done, 150